naman I'm sorry to ask this
At
pero hindi
we're
naman,
about to go live na.
yeah,
Sige,
hindi naman
sige.
malignant
Well,
yung form.
hindi siya, and that's what I'm thankful for na hindi siya
Mm.
malignant.
Does it
Ayan.
need to be surgically removed?
Well, I don't want to. Saka hindi naman siya need kasi may friend ako na na parang may ganito din. Nagpa-surgery siya. Microscopic yung brain tumor niya. Tapos ang nangyari hindi natanggal. So,
Yeah.
parang alam mo 'yun, ang sakit din
Can you
na
share to me the link
yeah, ito po.
sa messenger mo?
Sure, sure. Ayan, sa phone. Yup. Copy link. Okay. So yan. So actually yung iba napapanood na tayo. So hello po. Ito
Hi.
share ko muna kay Sass yung link. Ayan. So wait lang nga po ah. First time ko magla-live na naka-neck brace actually. Ayan.
Ano na yan ha? Partida na yan.
Yeah. Okay.
Dali
So
lang ha.
na-receive niyo po.
Oo. Ano ko na, i-share ko na. Magandang, sandali.
Gabi sa Philippines. Good evening sa Philippines.
Good
Ayan.
evening, Philippines.
Hello
Sandali,
po.
share ko.
Yeah, sige po. Tapos, I'm not sure kung anong nangyayari. Usually naman kapag sinare yung live link, kahit mag-end tayo ng live later, di ba, it's the same link naman, di ba?
Yes.
Okay,
Ano
okay.
siya? Sa'yo pa rin yung source. Sa page mo pa rin yung source. So,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter kung
yeah. So,
hindi ka talaga take. I
opo.
therefore conclude na hindi ka talaga take.
Opo, hindi ako teki.
Dali, nagpo-posting pa
Oh,
siya.
opo. Ayan, pero but we're live, so ito nga, at least makita nila na authentic tong interview na to. And, oh, parehas tayo nangangapa dito. Wait lang. So, ayan. Ayan.
Kamusta? Sandali lang ha.
Opo, sure. Sige po, sige po.
Share. Um, so let me see. Sandali lang mga
Opo, may
friends.
mga nagre-react na. Hello, Zen. Hello, John, Chris, Matthew. May mga iba pang nagre-react. So,
I cannot see the reaction kasi sa... So, all right. I think let's start.
okay,
I
hello
think,
po. Yeah, sige, let's start. Hello po sa inyong lahat. Welcome to this video discussion. Actually, di siya interview kasi I'm gonna ask some questions. Pwede rin siya mag-ask sa akin ng question. So, hindi siya
it's
I
more
don't
a
want
dialogue. More of a
dialogue.
dialogue.
Dialogue. Hindi siya debate. Ayoko maging debate kasi pares na kami ni Sasawa sa mga kung ano-ano narinig namin sa mga hearings. Ako nagkasakit na nga ako, Sas, nagkasakit na ako. Oh, tapos 'di ba? So, ikaw ba what's the experience for you? Ako I started lobbying since 2014 eh. Ikaw? I mean, I know
Well,
you've been here for may decade na ba?
well, okay, I think let's start muna this introducing what our topic
Okay,
is.
sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
so our topic for tonight in the Philippines and afternoon here in the Netherlands is yung anti-discrimination bill, also known as the SOGIE bill, yung sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression bill. And then we will also discuss yung same-sex union bill.
Mm.
This dialogue, this conversation was actually initiated by Obed. Obed
Mm.
Obed emailed me, sent me a message. Sabi niya na parang, is it possible to have a conversation to find a possible middle ground dun sa anti-discrimination bill or SOGI bill and same-sex union bill? And then Obed introduced himself as belonging to
Coalition.
conservative.
Yeah, it's a coalition, conservative Christian coalition of Christians for Change is a conservative lobby group.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's a Christian conservative group
Yeah.
in the Philippines. So I actually said yes. Kasi nga as Obed and I were talking about earlier before na kami nag-live is parang ang gulo na.
Ang gulo na.
parang nagbabatuhan ng masasakit na salita, and not just coming from anyone's side, I think from both sides.
Yeah.
Those who are pro anti-discrimination bill, SOGI bill, and those who are either who don't like it who don't like it totally, or those who are just trying to find a space na yung interest naman nila would also be considered. Did
Yeah.
I put it correctly? Did I is it right for you in how I put it
Yeah, I
across?
mean, I have no strong objections to what you said. And honestly, ako rin po, kaya rin ako nagsabi ko, ano, sana makahanap ako ng LGBT advocate who can do this din, yung this dialogue. Kasi I've been into dialogues since maybe 2017. Hindi lang natuloy masyado kasi nagkaroon ng ano parang deadlock ba kung tawagin, pagdating sa terms and definitions. So, pero
Yeah.
at least sa group namin, hindi kami nag-aaway. Hindi kami nag-aaway. Kaso, syempre, hindi naman lahat ng mga nasa Congress and Senate ay hindi nag-aaway. May mga iba doon nag-aaway. And there are times na I feel bad kasi, for example, ako kasi I've been proposing alternatives din since from the start. And ang nangyayari, yung extreme views lang ang na nababalita sa TV. Tapos alam mo yun, as if people are just given to extreme options. And actually, hindi rin na-educate yung mga tao na masyado, which is something na parang pwede namang malaman na yung mga bills na yan, kaya nga may dialogues, kaya may hearings hindi to present it, take it or leave it. Kaya nagkakaroon ng hearings para magkaroon din ng amendments, ganyan, mga suggestions. And ako rin po, honestly po, I'm a conservative, but medyo sorry, I mean, pasensya sa mga kapwa ko conservative. Medyo nabubuisit ako kapag pag yung discussion medyo nagiging medyo parang nagiging, syempre pag may nangaaway na from our side, wait lang, charge ko lang yung laptop. Yan. So pag may nang-away na from our side, tapos kapag, pasensya na ha, kapag masyadong maraming Bible verses, gano'n. So ako din mismo parang, kasi for example, hindi ako theologian. I mean, I don't classify myself as a theologian.
Okay.
I am a conservative, pero hindi ako yung very, siguro religious. Minsan nga
I
nag
think let's
gano'n.
Obed, I think this is a good time for us to lay down where we're coming from. Like for
Okay.
example, our philosophical or ideological background and how do we approach not just anti-discrimination bill or any other bills, but how do we approach political questions in general? Kasi 'di ba, we would have somewhere na nagiging basis natin as our framework in relating to the world. Right? Like for
Yeah.
example, you say that you're conservative. So let's explain what does it mean to be conservative?
Yeah. Well, first lang i-appreciate ko lang si Sass, alam mo 'yun parang, talagang magaling yung mga tanong niya and, I appreciate that, ganyan. So
Thank you.
so so oo 'yan kasi at least may discussion nga and yung nga, so this time hindi lang ako yung nagtatanong sa kanya, siya puwede magtanong sa akin. So sige, where am I coming from? Ako I was not, when I was catapulted into this lobby work, I wasn't even thinking about conservatism. So
Okay.
I was just, a graduate student sa International Graduate School of Leadership. Tapos, it's just a school in the Philippines. And then after that, we were invited in Congress. Tapos after nun, we were asked to comment on the bill. Tapos, once actually sa akin more of yung where I'm coming from was actually I was catapulted here out of an accident lang. Parang
Okay.
parang gano'n and sila din kasi yung ibang mga hindi ako pastor pero yung ibang mga ministers and theologians na kasama ko during that time, they wanted somebody na somebody young, somebody not who's not a pastor to speak kasi nga kapag pastor baka lang yung ang role namin is not to antagonize further the other side. Our role is to help, meet a middle ground. So ang official and then wait lang, ang official position namin actually dito, there's no need kasi may alternatives. Pero at some point then may mga naisip na rin akong parang pwede rin namang
Okay.
i-amend
All
ganyan.
right.
So I'm coming from the perspective na na I want uh, siguro at this point hindi ako masyadong supportive ng identity politics,
Mm,
which is yung parang alam mo yun parang supposed to be when we are fighting, as a nation dapat, national identity, not individual identity. So parang sa akin may ganun akong perspective ngayon. And as a
or
conservative, I
maybe
believe,
or
uh,
maybe human identity.
yeah, I mean dapat human identity in general. Yun naman actually nagbabasa
As
ko
a
kanina
human.
eh. Nagbabasa ko kanina kung like ito yung history ng civil code natin saka yung ibang mga laws sa ibang bansa. Yun naman ang purpose from the start. Hindi naman kinailangan ng racial discrimination kasi I mean hindi that was what, for example, discrimination and other kinds of discrimination, yun yung pinaprevent noon pa. Kaya nga dapat human identity is put at
Yeah.
a premium. Tapos
Okay.
and ako, I believe in limited government. So sa akin ganun lang. And that's what I also read dun sa ako law student ako ngayon. So that's what I also read, the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution was there to limit the powers of the government. So it's not
Okay.
supposed to expand. So ikaw, Sas, how about you?
So as I understand, parang yung conservatism, yung conservative politics mo. So yes, you adhere to the Christian faith, right? And I assume na parang that's yung parang major source mo ng sense of
Mm,
morality. Do I get it right?
Not
Or
necessarily. Nabubuisit din ako actually minsan sa sarili kong ano. So, I'm coming from the perspective na nabubuisit din ako minsan sa Christianity.
okay. So you're like
Yeah,
conservative in the sense na number one, ang nakita ko is parang you are against encroachment ng government
yeah,
into people's lives, di ba?
yeah.
As much as possible, you want the government to be
Limited.
as little as possible
Yeah.
and would allow more freedom
Yeah.
to people. Okay, so it's more like libertarian yung conservative
Sabi nga nila
yung
ganun.
di ba? Parang gano'n
Sabi nila.
na okay. So ako naman, I do not really have a strict ideological and philosophical um, leanings.
Hmm.
Yeah, a lot of people know na I'm an atheist, but I'm also a spiritual person. And I have been raised in a Catholic setting. I studied in a Catholic school. So hindi mo naman kasi maalis yung upbringing mo eh. So I still believe and I still adhere to some of Christian teachings, and they are really worth adhering to kasi I consider them as as part of the rich heritage of humanity. And hindi mo naman pwedeng itapon lahat just because you don't believe in some of the core beliefs,
Yeah.
right? Eh, gusto mo itapon mo na lahat. Of course, there are useful things from everything in life. Di ba? So
Hmm.
kahit saan. So I approach this as an advocate. I was there from this almost from the start. Yung anti-discrimination bill, sexual orientation pala yung category na nandun. And then when I entered scene, I was one of the very few people then na to include gender identity and expression. Okay.
Okay.
Ngayon, I you know, but also, right? Also, I'm also a political philosophy
Hmm.
person, so I understand, all political positions,
Hmm.
and for me, I agreed to this kasi nga I don't believe na we should fight our political battles as if it's a battle between good and evil,
Yeah.
right? Right? So I don't believe that. Like one of my favorite political realist writers, he is actually a Christian. He's a Christian realist. And then he said na parang it's such a sign of arrogance that we think that we know the mind of God.
Okay.
Na, na that's why when we fight, we feel now we are representing God rather than representing ourselves and just trying to approximate the moral order that we
Hmm.
think God has. So that's where I'm coming from. So I'm willing to talk and find a possible middle ground. Because the point is, um, sabi nga ni Obed, we have a hearing because we would like to know different sides, right? And then after that hearing, then we should be able to come up with a policy that at least approximate a certain level of consensus. And I also believe in that kasi especially for example with issues like this na very it really touches a lot of people's
Yeah,
core,
controversial,
right?
yeah.
So yeah, exactly. So ayoko naman na for example na nakapagpasa ka ng bill na related sa akin, and at the same time, people are it people would consider na, how about our voice? Our voices were not heard,
Mm.
right? Kasi mag-aano lang yan eh, it will just generate extremism, right?
Yeah.
If you employ extremist measure, ang mangyayari is that it will just invite extremism. So, ayun yung tingin ko na why I'm here, right? I want to explore whether it's possible for us to find some sort of a middle ground, right? Na we might not be equally satisfied because of
Mm.
that middle ground, but at least we are better off that. But I'm hoping that at least we would be better off than a situation na we're just at the both opposite sides
Yeah.
rather than meeting at a certain um, place at the center.
Yeah, that's
Yun
why
lang.
yeah. Yeah, and yeah, and I that's why I appreciate si Sass kasi being here since 2014. I mean, I've been in the lobby work since 2014. Napapansin ko na na yung for example, yung mga ibang alternatives na sinishare ko, it's not being heard. When sa media na quote, actually once lang tumama ang media dun sa sa na-quote sa akin. Tapos in the hearings, siyempre ano ako I try to adhere to the 4-minute rule, ay 4-minute time given to us. So 4 minutes lang siya. Tapos syempre isa lang naman ako, for example, out of 40 resource persons na nandun, may mga kongresista pa, and then lalo yung sa Senate, ang dami, grabe. Mas marami sa Senate last year. And then, syempre, yung voice namin is hindi, I mean, for example ako, yung voice na sinasabi ko, yung message na sinasabi ko, hindi siya masyado nagiging clear. So, kaya, hindi ko naman ma-blame din ng mainstream. I mean, minsan gusto ko silang i-blame, gusto ko magalit sa mainstream media, bakit mali yung pag-quote sa akin. Pero, pero, ah, pero,
I think Obed, let's just put it this way, that the media as well is an actor, right? And then they
yeah,
also have their own interest, and then they would interpret something or present something according to their own interest. Let's just
yeah,
be realistic
yeah,
about it. So it's not about blaming them or that,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
it just reveals,
yeah.
what they are, and what's their personal
Yeah,
leanings.
parang mass media models. May isang, ayun ba, elite values model, ganyan. Dominant ideology model, ganyan. So, and that the reason why then I'm so thankful for this discussion, kahit alam kong busy si Sas, medyo, sabi mo lang kapag may ilang minutes pa tayo, kasi, uh, kasi, pero this is enough. I mean, this is really substantial for me kasi 3 minutes lang kami sa Congress magsalita, and at least dito, we have more minutes to explore, we have time to laugh, di ba? So,
Yes,
and
exactly.
di ba? Tapos di tayo
Kaya
nagtatalo.
hindi tayo pressured. Hindi
Oo, hindi
tayo
tayo pressured.
pressured.
Ganun. So,
Okay, so
ayun.
let's start. Ano
Okay,
bang
start.
kailangan natin pag-usapan?
Okay, first, well, ganito, kasi since ikaw, busy ka, you don't have much time, to ewan ko kasi kung madaldal kasi ako, parehas tayo madaldal. So,
Oo.
hindi ko alam kung gaano to katagal. Pero sige, for a start, before I go through the provisions of the bill, kasi ako, I don't want to kasi nakikita ko rin sa comments may mga misconceptions about the bill. Like for example, yung SOGIE bill, akala niya it would recognize yung ownership ng properties ng parties, which is, well, actually, I don't, nasa same-sex union bill yun, pero wala yun sa SOGIE bill.
Ano
So,
muna tayo? Sa ano muna tayo?
Soji,
Soji
Soji,
bill muna
Soji,
tayo.
Soji mo.
Soji bill
Okay.
muna tayo.
So, siguro for a start, before I go, I'll share my screen na. I mean yung PDF file
Yes.
na nakabukas. So and dun sa mga manghihingi sa akin ng ng position papers ko, I'm willing to naman to give you. Just send me a chat dun sa page, ganyan. Tapos so I'll send you the position paper naman para may reference kayo later. Um yung ang nakikita kong contentions dito sa actually based lang sa observations ko kasi ako I'm observing, I'm not
Yeah.
here just for purely ideological grounds, so
It's okay.
yeah, so sa observations ko kasi ang pinaka contentious na part yung term na SOGIE.
Okay.
Pag tinanggal mo yun actually, parang virtually nawawalan ng opposition. Yun doon nung gagaling from our side. And ako naman, actually, I've been thinking about it. Ang daming possible arguments. Pero ito lang, honestly, ang ngayon, ang wala akong maisip na argument laban sa gender expression. Why? Kasi it's enshrined in the Bill of Rights na may freedom of expression tayo. So,
Okay.
yun. Pero, doon, siguro, yun, wala akong maisip na argument about it. Kasi ganito, Sas. I think you're aware naman, parang nangyari din sa ibang mga bills. Di ba, ngayon, may mga lobbyists. Yan, nag-uusap. Pag napasa yung, uso ngayon yun, di ba? Pag may napasang batas, may magfa-file kaagad sa Supreme Court questioning the constitutionality. 'Di ba may mga gano'n? So, ang naiisip ko lang, if ever, for example, ito pwede actually mapagbigyan na tanggalin for possible lang, I'm not saying na mangyayari, depende sa, sa arguments. Yung SOGI, pwede sigurong mapalitan, ma-amend, pero ang hindi ko, or ma-invalidate, pero yung gender expression, ang hindi ko, from a legal point of view, I can't see anything wrong there kasi sa atin, ang freedom of expression natin, limited lang siya. Ang tawag nila is clear and present danger rule. Yung clear and present danger rule, ito yung kapag for example, sedition. If you incite another person or a group of people to inflict harm on a person or class of people, that's clear and present danger. Pero if I'm just saying my own opinion, or for example, I'm just kahit minsan ang sasakit ng sinasabi ko, pero wala akong call for action na of harm, parang ano siya, protected speech
Yeah.
siya. So
Okay.
kaya
As I understand here, you think that yung provision sa Constitution to protect freedom of expression will cover gender
yeah,
expression.
I
Okay,
think.
sa mga nanonood, let's just like clarify. Gender expression means how we express ourselves. Either we express ourselves in a masculine way, feminine way, or androgynous way. So yun
Okay.
yung inaano. So for example, let me just bigla kita ng example of it. So for
Sure.
example, if a straight guy would have a long hair, and then the school would ask him to cut his hair because the school would say na babae lang ang pwedeng mag-long hair, can that straight guy avail his right ng freedom of expression?
Actually no, kasi meron tayong ibang constitutional provision on academic freedom na meron silang ang schools, even businesses, they have the freedom actually to impose rules na hindi na dapat hindi siya hindi harmless naman. Syempre, yun naman yung general ano nun. Any
Yeah,
policy. So
pero
so
so how do we balance that? So
ganto.
what is higher, freedom of expression or academic freedom?
Ganto, ang hindi siya yung higher eh, more of ano siya, ang
Find the middle ground.
ang ang rule diyan sa statutory construction, merong general rule, pero specific rules prevail over the general rule.
Yeah,
So,
pero I'd like to ask, yung academic freedom, ang freedom ba na yan, kasi it's called academic, right? Academic freedom. So, if the rule doesn't have any academic, if the rule, for example, of the school doesn't have any academic dimension, would it be covered by academic freedom? How
eto,
how how big is the academic
okay,
freedom?
okay. So, how big is the academic freedom? Ito siya. Sabi ng Supreme Court dito, dun sa isang case, Miriam College case, academic freedom is the freedom of institutions to, hire teachers, and then say what to teach and how to teach them.
Okay.
So ganun siya. And at the same time yung discipline sa school. So yun yung general principle niya. So that's academic freedom. So hindi lang siya yung kung ano yung tuturo, pati yung sa discipline ng school, what it imposes. Pag walang makita, for example, pag walang makita ang state na parang clear and actually hindi clear and present danger dito, ang tawag nila is compelling state interest, saka least intrusive means. Okay, ano yung background nito? Lahat tayo syempre, 'di ba? Sabi sa Constitution, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, property without due process of law, and nobody would be denied equal protection of laws. So yung pag sinabing person daw doon, hindi lang siya ibig sabihin tao na natural. It
So,
also
okay.
it also includes juridical persons.
Yeah.
Entities, ganyan, corporations,
Organizations, yeah.
yan.
So I think, okay, my question then is if this, so kasi ang premise mo is the university cannot, so if a straight guy would have a long hair and then the university said na cut that hair because men shouldn't have long hair, only women should have long hair, and that is of course sinasabi nga natin na could be a violation of freedom of expression. Pero as you've said na because of academic freedom, then yung gender expression ng straight guy to have a long hair then wouldn't be protected. So
Mm,
So ngayon, how do we then protect individual freedom of expression in the context of being protected from the power of institutions like universities? Kasi meron tayong
Okay,
power
sure, sure.
asymmetry. You do have the university who has this tremendous power, and then you do have these individual people who don't. So parang nangyayari is the power of that huge institution was protected, but the individual freedom of the student wasn't.
Yeah. And
So
apparent
how do you find a middle ground there? Is it possible to find a
okay,
middle
ganito,
ground?
yeah, yeah.
Or should we just say na mag-suffer na lang yung individual na tao and then yung institution, let them have their freedom.
No, 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 no.
Okay,
Ganito,
all right.
this is, ito yung possible na ano dyan, na, we will go back to the principles of the civil code, yung chapter on human relations nila dyan, na, wait lang, but, you know, sorry, magko-quote ako from, civil code, to, hindi to Bible, baka sabihin nyo Bible. Ayoko mag-quote ng Bible. Ito yung sabi kasi ni Arturo Tolentino, isa sa mga members ng Code Commission that was part of the Civil Code Commission when it was, drafted. Sabi niya, itong chapter 2 on human relations, it was designed to guard against abuse of right. Okay, what is abuse of right? May karapatan ka, like you have academic freedom, you have religious freedom, ganyan. May karapatan ka eh. Kaso mali yung paggamit mo ng karapatan mo.
Okay.
Okay,
So
so,
meron ganun. So let's say
oh,
na so we should be responsible in our use of our rights. So
yeah,
yun yung message.
uh,
And does it only apply to individuals or does it also apply to juridical
it
institutions?
also applies to juridical
Juridical
institution.
persons.
Yeah, yeah, it also applies. Why?
Okay.
So in
So
that scenario, I'll give you an example. Ganito. So for example, inadmit yung student, alam naman na mahaba yung buhok. 'Di ba? Inadmit niya yung student. Hindi niya, tas may kontrata sila. So they are governed now by a contract. So because of that contract, hindi basta-basta pwedeng i-terminate yung student doon. And in the way na i-convince yung student na mag-cut ng hair, hindi rin dapat against, ang usual principles are against morals, public policy, ganyan. So, and and dapat walang bad faith. Yung tinatawag nilang bad faith, ito yung malice or yung intent to injure or harm a person.
yeah, pero
So,
okay, let's say it's not a straight guy, right? Let's say it's someone like me, right? And then I would have a psychological certificate evaluation na it is important for my psychological health to express myself in a feminine way. So you do have now a an assessment from a competent
okay.
doctor, and then you go and then you apply, let's say it's a university, di ba, nagpasok ka ng university, and then
Mm.
the university would tell me na we cannot accept someone like you.
Oh, wait lang.
Um,
Sige.
so so let's say na the school has academic freedom, and of course I also have a freedom, and then of course I also have a right. Pasok ba yan sa right to health, di ba, na right to
Mm,
di ba
ah,
meron tayong right to health or right to ano ba?
well, actually, hindi,
Or something
something like
related
that.
to our
Yeah.
personal integrity, di ba? And
Yeah.
then part of our integrity as a person is our mental health, our physical health, and that I think our ability to be able to um, live in this world without due pressure, as long as we are not endangering other people's life or harming them, etc. Like yun yung harm, di ba, yung harm principle
Mm,
na tinatawag natin. So ano yan? So how are we then gonna find a middle ground? Like for example, in that case, is the
okay.
universe just so kung yung university, can they just like, okay, we can't kasi wala pang contract, di ba? Hindi nila
Yeah.
tinanggap.
Okay,
So
okay.
walang nangyari.
Yeah. So, ganito yan. Kung public school, hindi, I mean, bawal yan. I mean, bawal, alam ko, I'm sorry. Ang public school, it's under, kapag hanggang grade 12, it's under the DepEd. So, kaya na ng DepEd yan. So, pataas, it's CHED. But yung dun sa question mo, na for example, wala, ang tawag dyan, yung nasa pre-contractual stage pa lang sila. So, ibig sabihin wala pang contract na nabubuo. Ang sagot diyan nung so far ito yung sagot lang nung book diyan, Arturo Tolentino, isa sa mga draft nung civil code is uh, kapag may isang case dyan sa ibang bansa na yun ang sinabi niyang by the way, pag nagko-quote po ako nung mga books, for example, si Tolentino, ganyan, sa law kasi mahalaga yung ratio legis or spirit of the law kung tawagin. So, ito yung intent. So, for example, pag nagkalabuan na kung anong meaning ng text, babalik tayo sa intent. And so far, yung intent depends dun sa yung mga bumuo nung batas, ganyan. Kaya nga, si Tolentino, isa siya sa mga nag-draft ng civil code, so kaya kino-quote ko siya. Ang sabi lang niya, ang pwede lang talaga diyang i-allow, kasi nga, they place this part of the civil code to acknowledge yung conflicting rights. And so,
Yeah,
yung
they
nga
do.
conflicting rights siya eh. So, ang pwede lang sa pre-contractual stage, sa stage na yon is kapag pag wala lang ibang school, saka lang magiging bawal. Pero kapag may alternatives pa, like,
Okay.
ganun siya.
Now I'm getting it na so kung isa lang naman yung gumagawa niyan, then parang why would we, kasi I'm getting ganito, kasi you are coming from a conservative political conservative background, and I'm understanding it, right?
Okay.
Why would we, parang I'm gonna put my head into your head. Ganito yan kasi na, why would we spend the resources of the state just to prevent one institution from doing it? Di ba parang ganyan yan?
No,
Kasi,
I mean, I'm not even thinking about that. So I'm just thinking about
okay,
I'm honestly kasi siguro law student ako. Hindi ako lawyer yung iba sa kala lawyer. Hindi po ako lawyer. Don't call me attorney please. Yet, but I hope in the future maging lawyer. Ganyan. Ano
so
kasi
kung may ibang alternatives, okay lang yan. Okay lang yung isang institution na,
parang
na
yun yung nakalagay.
mag-violate.
Hindi siya actually violate. It's a conflicting rights eh. Kasi ano siya eh, um, pwede ka naman kasi yun yung minsan argument ng even Supreme, I mean, I'm quoting from the Supreme Court saka yung ibang mga nag-draft nung code, they're parang
Mga friends, sandali lang, okay,
sure, sure,
habang
sure.
mga friends, we are talking right now para makita lang nila kung magkaroon lang tayo ng mga signpost sa ating
Okay,
pinag-usapan.
sure.
We're talking right now the ability of our current laws in order to address yung mga possible na situation na the SOGIE bill might address. Kasi nga, di ba, for a lot of people, they say na we have already enough laws in order to address this
Yeah,
situation. So yun yung tinitingnan natin ngayon, kung yeah,
yeah.
is it possible given our current laws? Yeah.
Ganito, sige ganito. Siguro I don't have a conclusive answer on that. Pero kasi ganito, ang pagiging problem kasi natin diyan, Sas, if somebody questions it in the Supreme Court and then would invoke academic freedom. 'Di ba nangyari sa RH law? Uh, yung ang nang ginawa si Attorney James Imbong, nag-file agad siya sa Supreme Court ng question of constitutionality ng RH law. So, may mga na-invalidate na provision. So, parang ang sa akin naman, if gagawa tayo ng batas, kasi alam mo yun, ang nangyari like sa RH law, ang daming nag-aaway-away diyan. Tapos for many years, tapos pagdating dun sa Supreme Court, both sides then didn't get exactly what they want kasi may na-invalidate. Ang gusto yung sa side namin, ang gusto nung sa side namin, completely mawala yung RH. Kaso Supreme Court hindi pinagbigyan. Hindi niya pinagbigyan na completely mawala yung RH. May mga specific provisions naman sa RH na gustong-gusto ng mga yung mga advocates niyan na some of it natanggal. Yun yung core reason nila kung ba't nila pinush to. So ang mangyayari niyan, ang magiging concern ko lang kapag in the future, I mean we can discuss, we can think about it, pero kapag si Supreme Court binalance na niya kasi binalance na niya yung rights ng institution sa rights ng individual. Tapos ang so far ang fina-follow na principle is, for example, kung may iba namang alternatives, you have the it's you have the right to enroll, or sorry, you have the choice to enroll or not to enroll. Parang ganun siya eh. So meron siyang conflicting rights. Ang gusto lang ng civil ng yung if you're going to file an action for damages, yung tawag, kapag mali yung pagtanggi sa'yo. Even yung pagtanggi, pag-offer, pagtanggi,
So, paano yung so ano yung sakop na mali na pagtanggi? Let's say,
okay,
ako, di ba, was there, and then I was enrolling, and then they told me na, you have to cut your hair because you're male in your birth certificate, and then I would show them na, actually, I have a assessment from my psychologist na I'm going through, let's say, gender dysphoria, and it's necessary for my mental health. to be for me to be able to express my gender. Let's say ganun yung usapan, di ba? And then the school would say na, no, we still don't
Okay.
accept. So
Sige.
can I then, I'm just looking at the
Sure, sure,
current
sure, sure.
laws, ha?
Sure.
Can I then, kasi this is a medical condition. So can I then um um can I then ask relief under our ano bang laws na cover ang mga ang medical condition?
Doon sa
We do
sinasabi,
have, no, discrimination based on medical condition. We
ano,
have something
ganito,
like that.
against ano lang, PWDs.
So let's say I can I get a
But gender
relief?
dysphoria is not a ano disorder na eh. So, 'di ba tinanggal na
Yeah, it's
siya?
not a disorder, but it's still a
So,
medical condition. So how can then, so for example, if it's, let's say you're pregnant, Freda, it's not a
okay,
disease, right?
may
And I think there was a Supreme Court decision covering a pregnant
yeah.
woman out of wedlock, diba? Na
Mm.
na na
It's a law, it's a law. It's hindi lang siya Supreme Court decision. Sinustain
oh,
ng Supreme Court. Yeah.
so let's say I was discriminated because of my medical condition.
Um
Can I avail current what's this
Current laws.
current
Okay.
relief from our current laws?
Ganito, hindi ako magmamarunong. Hindi ko kabisado ang Mental Health Act. Tapos doon sa so if ever that's something na ano, na siguro I'm not sure kung nasa Mental Health Act 'yun, pero kung wala, edi pwede nga natin siyang i-amend na ano, this ganito style sa conservative Sasa. Wag mong ilalagay yung SOGIE dun sa bill. Ilagay mo lang all academic institutions should have a special provision on students na may mental health concerns. Like ako, pag sinabi ng mga mental health concerns mga kapatid, hindi po baliw. Ako po may mental health concern. I have anxiety disorder with psychosomatic pains. And 'di ba? And gladly hindi pa ako nagwawala sa school. And,
Yes,
and
yes.
so 'di ba? Sa bahay ako nagwawala Sas. Kaya nga wait, I mean, and I think it's okay. I'm not supposed to describe pala kung ano ginagawa ko, you know. Pero buti may gamot ako I am acknowledging my condition. Kaya nga 'di ba minsan chinat kita na I just drank my medicine. So para medyo
Yeah, yeah,
kung ano na yun. Ah
yeah. So, so ayan. So ako kasi so like for example a trans advocate
hmm,
and yung gender dysphoria or gender identity disorder, that's something na I can talk about. So parang ganon kasi it's a recognized mental
yeah.
condition, and then you got let's say you got received poor treatment because of your medical condition, then with the current laws you might have a relief or you will have a relief.
Dapat, I mean kung covered siya ng mental health act, but ito yung parang safeguard provision ng civil code dyan, is ito, bawal na i-vex or humiliate another person on account of his religious beliefs, lowly station in life, place of birth, physical defect, or other personal condition.
Okay,
So,
so pasok siya dun sa other personal
yeah.
conditions.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so now I can see here why let's say gender identity parang given that, diba? Given that provision na
Mm-mm.
pasok siya dun sa other personal conditions, I can see na yeah, I understand why those who are against this bill would say na we already have laws that would protect
Mm-mm.
these people kasi nga for example yung vexing and humiliation we have there.
Yeah.
Pero ang tanong ko dito, Obed, nag-object ba kayo dun sa anti-bastos bill?
Ano yun?
Yung
Sorry,
anti-bastos bill?
what do you mean yung sa Safe Spaces Act?
Kasi nagkasama din yung
Okay.
homophobia and transphobia.
Okay.
Kasi yun, it added a new layer. Kasi given na meron na palang ganyan na hindi ka pwedeng ibastusin because of an account of other conditions, then why do we still need the anti-bastos bill?
Ganito.
Why?
This is our worry actually. Kasi itong sa
I'm
civil
worried
code,
as well.
yeah,
I'm worried as well.
yeah. Alam nyo,
Although I was surprised that it was passed without much objection. And I was worried it kasi nga, for example, biglang kita ng example. Like, let's say, transphobia is one of the transphobic slurs. Ang isa sa mga mapipenalize. And I was like, sino magde-decide ng transphobic slur? even us sa trans community, we don't even agree what counts as a slur or not. So now, nangyayari sa akin eh. At yun, ano yun ha, ang pangamba ko pa nun ay even in personal communications. Even no matter the intention ha, nakalagay pa doon, no matter the intention.
I forgot. I was part of the hearing. I know medyo hindi ko sinabing I'm against the bill. Kasi during
Yeah.
that time hindi ko pa masyadong nare-reflect itong civil code during that time. But sinabi ko, can we actually parang nag-ano lang ako eh. Once lang nagkaroon ng hearing doon. Tapos di na ako nalaman ko na
Pero
personal lang.
Pero yun na nga, I was like really surprised, like Obed, na it actually passed so easily given na ang dami ng implication eh. Especially it would have implication on freedom of speech.
Yeah. Uh,
Communications, ganyan. Kasi even those who are, kasi meron kasi yun kasi kahit even virtual, kailangan
okay.
maging safe space. And yung virtual space doon even included chats,
Okay.
email.
Sass,
So,
question lang. May question lang
so
ako.
yun na nga. So
Before,
bakit tayo na, do
okay.
you think na, something like that would be challenged in the Supreme Court? Or is it something needed given na meron na pala tayong batas na could
Ganito, what the safe
protect you
space,
from vexation?
yeah, ganito. Pero ganito, Sass, just to be clear sa audience natin. So we're trying to, again, di ba, signpost. Ito yung, nasa SOGIE bill discussion pa lang kami, so we're trying to explore alternatives. Diyan, Sass, ang question, nobody yet filed it sa Supreme Court, pero alam ko may mga ibang nagpaplano. Pero sa ngayon wala pang naka-file. Pero ganito yan. Ito ang worry ko. 'Di ba sabi sa atin, no person shall be deprived of life and liberty. And lahat tayo may constitutionally enshrined na rights. Ang test dyan, to regulate the right, to penalize a right, is ang tawag nila compelling state interest. Sorry, medyo madaldala ako sa ito usual na principles kasi I've seen this framework ginamit ng Supreme Court in cases na constitutional right ang conflicting constitutional rights ang usapan. So ang question is, first, is the act sincere? Yung ginawa mo bang act or yung piniprevent na act, yung pag-practice ba nung tao na to, yung sabi mo of yung alleged violator nun, is he or she did he or she act in good faith or bad faith? Now, kung bad faith, may civil code provisions tayo na bawal. Bawal ang abuse of right. Bawal yun. Now, next.
Okay, so now I understand na yung difference ng when rights conflict. Now, if you exercise your right in bad faith, bawal yan.
Bawal yan. Yeah. Pero ganito, ang pinagkaiba yung isa, criminal law. Etong sinasabi ko, civil law siya. Civil law is the middle ground kasi, bakit middle ground? Kasi, di ba, ganito, lahat tayo may right to liberty, may choice, ganyan. So, ano ba yung pinaka-ultimate pangharang ng liberty natin? Siyempre, imprisonment as of now. Dati, death penalty. Pero sa ngayon, imprisonment. So, ang question first question ng Supreme Court dyan is the act sincere? Next, is there a compelling state interest? Usually naman may compelling state interest.
Okay.
Okay.
I think I know where you're going, Obed. Continue.
Okay. And then the next question na tinatanong Supreme Court dyan, the final question is this the least intrusive means to infringe on the right? Is the compelling state interest so big na dapat, and there's no other, ang sabi nila, paano mo masabing least intrusive means? Is there any other way to regulate the right? If there's none, okay, sige, let this law pass the constitutionality test. Pero kapag meron pang iba na ways to regulate this right, then it could be it actually dalawa yan eh. It's either exemption, may exempt mo yung accused or yung person na being complained of, pwede siyang mag-exempt sa application ng batas. Nangyari yan eh. May isang case ng ganyan na exempt siya. May law, hindi binago yung law, hindi na-declare na unconstitutional yung law, in-exempt lang siya. So, tas may isa namang case, ito yung first case, yung in-exempt siya, yung Estrada versus Escritor na case.
Yeah, I know that. Yung what counts as public morality.
Yeah, pero yung discussion niya, yung framework niyang ginamit ay yung pa rin, yung compelling state interest. Yung tatlong questions is tapos
I think I know where you're getting at.
Yeah.
Abed, na when you introduce yung, for example, the difference between criminal law
Yeah.
and civil law, right?
Yeah.
Kasi, mga friends, the anti-discrimination bill is going to be a part of our criminal law. Na if you discriminate someone, then you would be in prison. Now, given that, Obed, I can see now why this law, I'm an advocate, huh? I
Okay.
can now see why this law, um, why this law can be too much, right? Kasi if this just
Again.
be, if it's just not just too much, I can already imagine it. Kasi for example, yung sa US, yung baking issue, 'di ba?
Yeah,
'Di ba yung
florist,
yung
ganun.
small baking na parang sabi ko nga na, my God, maliit lang naman ang bakery yan. Why do you need to do this and sue them? Just get another cake. Anyway, going back, right? So now I can see here, right? Now I can see why it could be seen as inhumane to use the powers of the state, right? To actually um to actually intervene in something that could have been resolved in a more civil law case.
Yeah. And
Right?
actually,
Kasi sa civil
sige.
law, pag, di
Mm.
ba sa civil law, it's more like balancing of rights eh. Di
Ah,
ba?
mm. Yeah, saka ano
Pero pag,
siya, mas mababa ang evidence na needed kaysa sa
yeah,
criminal.
exactly. Yeah, I know, so
Oo.
mamaya tayo dun sa ano.
Sige.
So yun yung nakikita ko ngayon, na bakit, let's say, ang position nung ano, iba is, we don't na, too much itong law na to. Now, I can see why they are saying it's too much. Kasi nga, if someone discriminates you, then pwede siyang ma-penalize na makulong.
Mm.
And, iniisip ko naman na why, ako I'm doing my personal
Yeah.
reflection right now. Na inisip ko na, I'm looking back dun sa mga panahon na I was discriminated.
Mm.
Na marami talaga akong instances nun. And I'm thinking na, ang solution ba na gusto ko is makulong sila?
Mm.
Is it really the solution that I want? Diba? And someone who understand libertarian politics, diba, na isip ko na, is this a good use of the power of the state? 'Di ba? Kasi 'di ba, gusto nating mag-introduce ng batas in order to solve something or at least improves a situation. And iniisip ko na pag ikinulong ba 'tong mga 'to, would it improve the situation? Or would
Yeah.
it only raise animosity in society? Kasi nga, I think, um, yeah, so that in that case, I can see why, um, for me, I think the middle ground would be to just turn this into a civil
Yeah, and
law
sige,
law
i-explain ko rin,
thing.
explain ko rin. Ganito kasi po, kaya po nilagay nila yung civil uh, code provisions on human relations kasi ang problema nila kasi ganito po, ang sistema po natin supposed to be, ganito ang misconception ng iba kasi, kapag may wrong na nangyari, automatic dapat yung magkakaso. No, kung sino yung na-injure, siya yung dapat na lalapit sa court para mag-file ng case. Ganyan.
Yeah, yeah,
So, hindi siya automatic. Tapos, next, um, susunod nun is si prosecutor, siya yung magde-decide kung meron bang probable cause para ituloy yung kaso o hindi. Now, ang
yeah.
question, ang difference pala between a criminal case and a civil case, as a criminal case, si prosecutor magde-decide kung may probable cause. Actually, wait, hindi pa ako wala pa akong civil procedure. So, hindi ko alam kung sino nagde-decide sa civil case. Pero ang sabi lang sa mga torts and damages book ko dito is sa civil case, si prosecutor won't have to, kailangan lang niyang i-allow it. Kasi hindi naman siya criminal case eh. So, tama. Kasi, ang difference nung dalawa, si prosecutor representing the state. Si civil case, private complainant siya. So, si state, hindi siya needed. Kaya 'di ba ang mga kaso sa criminal case is usually people versus ganyan.
Okay. So
So
Obed, I think my question to you is, do you think na that could be a middle ground? Na instead of criminalizing discrimination, na magiging krimen siya, maybe we could just have a state policy na hindi ganun ka-intrusive, na if something like, kasi this is about human relations eh, di
mm,
ba? Discrimination happens in the context of people relating with each other.
yeah.
and being part of a diverse society, this is bound to happen. Di
Mm.
ba? This is bound to happen
Yeah.
given that we are, different human beings, etc. It's bound to happen that we would be at each other's head. So maybe instead of having a criminal law, 'di ba? Maybe i-dial down siya
Yeah.
na maging ano na lang siya, magkaroon na lang siya ng wala na yung kulong, wala na
Yeah.
yung wala na yung wala na actually for me, I think yung kulong ang kailangang matanggal kasi for me personally, I don't think I would like the the people who discriminated me to go to jail. I don't think that it's worth na what happened to me is really worth um it's really worth it. Na parang iniisip ko na is my pain that much? Is the harm done to me that much that I would want the state to um really limit, not even limit, take away most of the freedom of this person just
Yeah.
because of this incident. So that's for me, huh? That's for me
Yeah.
na I think the middle ground is really not to make it a criminal
Yeah, and pero ganito
not to
Sas,
make it a crime.
actually I've been reflecting about it kasi ganito naman, honestly ganito, may bill ngayon na ano, na yung Magna Carta for Religious Freedom. Parang gano'n din siya eh, parang discrimination based on religion. And sa akin, honestly, yeah, I don't agree that it's with its necessity rin. Kasi nga,
Yeah.
again, saka kasi natakot ako sa penal provisions din. Yun nga, same thoughts as yours. Why would I send somebody to prison because of
Yeah,
misunderstanding my belief system? Ganon.
exactly,
And
exactly.
actually, this year, Sas, nag-apply ako ng actually, this pandemic sa Philippines, Sas, nag-apply ako for work kasi nag-resign ako last year, nagmuni-muni ako sa buhay ko, nag-resign ako last year. Babalik sana ako sa work, teacher na rin ako last year, babalik ako dun sa company where I was teaching then, supposed to be. Kaso nga lang, because of the pandemic, mababa enrollment nila. So nag-apply ako. Actually, I was refused. I stopped counting after 100 denied job applications. Eventually naman
Mm.
natanggap ako. Pero one of the uh, institutions I applied to, ang sabi sa akin, kasi hindi ako Catholic eh. Basta it's one Catholic school. Ang sabi sa akin nung department chair, sorry, your religion is quite problematic. That's why we're denying your application. Well, it hurts my feelings. Pero sabi ko hindi siya, but I understand. I mean, I'm an advocate of academic freedom. So parang all I can do is, to feel the hurt of being, pero nicely done naman yun. Nicely done naman yung sinabi. Saka sinabi niya sa akin, I will be forwarding your resume to another department. So, yun naman ang ginawa niya. Pero syempre, yung another department, maaaring hindi din tinanggap yung application ko. But eventually, tanggap naman ako dun sa isa. Pero, pero ganito yan eh. So, ang question
So
ngayon is,
yun nga yung question ko. You
uh,
think na it's a possible middle
yeah,
ground na
yeah,
instead of turning it into a criminal law, maging civil law na lang yung approach. More
yeah.
civil law approach and not
Actually,
criminal law.
opo. Actually, ganito po, sa mga hearings, ewan ko kung bakit, when I talk to the lawyers ng mga LGBT advocates, ganyan, minsan I present to them the alternatives. Actually, meron, I'm not saying na civil lahat meron ding criminal law tayo available. So for example, sedition, bawal 'yun. Yung sedition natin hindi lang siya against the government. It's bawal din siya. It's a criminal offense to incite harm against a class of people. For example, pag sinabi,
So
oh
para
tara,
siyang hate crime. Pwede siyang gawing
oh
parang hate crime.
hate crime 'yun. So actually that's a hate crime, inflicting injury. So actually meron ng, I'm not saying i-civil lahat, pwede naman i-criminal, pero yun nga lang uh,
Pero kasi Obed,
oo.
for me, kaya pwedeng i-criminal yung inflicting harm kasi the state for me has a compelling interest in
Yeah.
order to protect the physical integrity of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
'Di ba na pero inisip ko yung sa discrimination na para okay, you got discriminated, let's say, right? And then do I really want to send this person to jail because of discrimination? Parang yun yung ano ko
Yeah.
yung more ano ko na
Opo.
parang can this be resolved in a more civil law
Yeah,
approach?
actually, when I talk to the lawyers, yung isa nga galing sa Philippine Commission on Women eh. Sabi niya sa akin yung proposal mo actually okay naman yan, kaso eto iba yung gusto nila eh. So parang ayun, tas ang question ko, minsan nagsasabi sila na may gantong nangyaring may isang LGBT na abuso dito, na abuso doon. Kasi ang minsan question ko, sino nag-file ng kaso? May nag-file ba ng kaso? Wala. Actually, wala nag-file. Hindi ko lang masabi na, ang dami niyo pong lawyers. Bakit po walang nag-file ng kaso doon? Ganun, so parang, yun, yun ang sa akin.
My,
So,
my lips are sealed.
so, so yun yung sa akin. And, although, sana mali ang hula ko. Sana mali ang hula ko
Pero,
na,
kasi pero I know kasi yan, Obed, na, what's this? I actually before I was already thinking na pwede pasok naman dito sa no one should be vexed because of other personal conditions, di
hmm,
ba? Other personal
hmm,
conditions would include medical conditions. And I don't wanna say na lang kung sino, di ba?
okay.
Pero I had experience kasi before and they told me na hindi raw pasok. So
Ha?
kailangan talaga yeah.
No,
I
no.
I have I have been in a lot of situations before na ako mismo nagsabi na pwede ba akong magreklamo based on this provision sa civil code. I know kasi yung provision sa civil code
Okay,
may number of
okay.
personal conditions. And then sabi nila, hindi kasi hindi specified dyan yung condition mo. Sabi ko, anong condition nito?
Oo.
Anong condition nito? Kung recognized naman to ng medical
Hmm,
institutions, etc. So, I think na in that sense, I understand kasi may mga nagsasabi sa akin dati sa page ko na since we already have laws that could protect people against
hmm,
discrimination. Parang yun yung parang isa sa mga nasa hindi talaga totally against, but they are presenting a more principled
hmm,
discussion, especially with the presence ng law. Sabi, may
yeah.
mga batas na. So, parang sinasabi nila na, kung may mga batas na you are just like trying to replicate what's there already. Tapos isa yun sa mga binanggit nila,
Hmm,
yung no one should be vexed, etc. And yan na, sabi ko nga na parang, bakit nga walang nagtatry na gamitin ito?
ayun nga.
Kasi doon lang naman natin malalaman na the law is not enough if it has been used and the court says na hindi ito pwedeng gamitin in this situation
Oo.
and then the Congress should pass a law. 'Di ba?
Yeah,
And
actually,
and yun yung nakakasakit kasi it's been 20 years, in my 20 years of being a trans advocate. Walang
well, I kinda feel
walang nagtry to test this
ayun nga.
current laws.
Hindi, kaya nga sanang maging lawyer ako. Kung gusto mo, ako pang file ng case laban sa kanila. Pag, so, ganito, ang purpose kasi, I mean, doon sa mga nagsasabi ng ganun, let's go back. Ano bang sinabi ng Code Commission when they wrote this? Sabi nila, they intentionally did not put an exhaustive list kasi nga, baka sabihin na ito lang sa listahan na to. So,
Mm.
ang ginawa nila is this whole chapter sa civil code sinasabi nila is about preventing abuse of right. Ganyan. Tapos yung abuse, yung violating din yung mga political rights ng mga ibang tao na maaaring hindi siya criminal offense pero mali eh. I mean, ba't mo siya ginawa kasi? Bakit kasi ganun? Actually,
It might not be a criminal offense, but it might have a civil law
yeah,
implication.
yeah. Opo. And ang difference din sa dalawa is una, syempre yung evidence mas mababa sa civil case. At the same time ganito po just to somehow tempt people na sa civil case. Ganito kasi 'yan. Kapag nag-file ka ng civil case, ang magiging result niyan is babayaran ka nung offender.
For the damage, di ba? Moral harm,
Damages. Yeah,
damage.
yeah, yeah. Damages yung alam ko may ibang terms pero di ko alam. Pero ang term namin sa law school is damages.
Yeah.
Ganyan. Tapos, at the same time, alam ko, pero ganito every person criminally liable is also civilly liable. So, pwede rin naman siya sa criminal case. Yung nga lang, mas madali ang civil case, tapos may damages na ma-award, and it also depends on the circumstances of the persons. Ako,
Yes.
kaya actually ako, medyo hesitant ako maglagay din ng amount sa law to define na ganito dapat yan. Kasi, pwede siguro we can put a minimum, pero kasi, ano nga
I
it
think
does,
I think it depends on the
yeah,
circumstance.
yung actually, ang current law ngayon natin ngayon is it depends on the circumstances. Kasi, yun nga, kapag, it would not be fair if, for example, a rich person, for example, a rich person and somebody who's in the middle class, But as, for example, they abuse their rights, and they would pay the
Mm.
same thing.
No,
So,
I think that's not equitable. 'Di
yeah,
ba yung
yeah.
tawag na
Kaya
equitable.
kaya ako ay parang even if for example, ang tanong, should we then pass a law parang defining kung magkano yung pabayaran na damages? Sa akin, I'm quite hesitant kasi nga baka hindi siya maging equitable. So, actually kaya nag-check ako dun sa yung pinakamababang amount na nakita ko is 25,000. Yung as moral damages, iba pa yung attorney's fees. Sabi kasi nila, sabi ng framers ng civil code natin, when it comes to torts and damages, they also want na may mga times na pag ikaw yung nagkaso, pag nanalo ka, may mga circumstances, lalo na pag may exemplary damages, ito yung nag-violate ka dun sa chapter 2 ng human relations, pwede kang makakollect ng attorney's fees, saka court fees. So yung mga ginastos mo sa court litigation, babayaran nung natalo. And ganito ang question, paano pag walang pambayad yung natalo? Ganito yan. Wait for his whole lifetime. Pwede niyang bayaran yan. And okay, Obed, paano? Kapag namatay siya, pwede ka ngayon mangolekta dun sa naiwan niyang property. Tapos,
So ito yung in-explain dito ni Obed, yung advantages ng civil law
yeah,
approach versus
yeah,
criminal law approach, ha?
yeah, opo. Tapos, yung ano dun, yung at the same time, may interest siya. Ang tawag nila moratory interest. So, for example, from the time na-declare ng court na dapat kang bayaran to the time na hindi siya na hindi pa niya hanggang sa mabayaran niya, even after his death, kasi yung estate niya pwede mong i-charge
Yeah.
mag-accrue ng interest yun. So, eventually you can it would be expensive to violate another person's rights. Sorry, in another, put it another way, it would be expensive to abuse your own right.
Oo.
Ganon.
So now I see why um now I see why yung civil law approach would be much better in addressing discrimination. And not just discrimination based on SOGIE, but all kinds of discrimination, right?
Yes.
Number one is that the civil law approach recognizes that this has a conflict of rights dimension. Diba? Pero we will only kailangan you should exercise your right in such a way na first hindi siya in bad faith, right? And number two, na you don't abuse it. Diba? Pero the state would recognize na you might have a right not to accept people based on whatever conditions in your university. But the question now is, why are you doing this?
And
why are you not
how would you
accepting?
refuse? Ganon.
Yeah, so why are you doing this and how are you doing this? So now, nakikita ko ngayon dito, Obed, na parang kasi sa criminal law, pag criminal law kasi sabihin lang ng state, bawal. We don't care about your reasoning. Bawal is bawal, 'di ba? Now, dito sa civil law approach, maybe there is a compelling reason, right? Maybe there is a legitimate reason why they might not accept people like me, for example, or why they might not accept people of a certain religion, diba? Or why they might not accept a people of certain age, diba? And then let's see what is the rationale behind this policy and how they actually enact this policy. Kasi di ba ganun yung civil law na it's not enough na you have a policy, but how you actually exercise that right would also be an issue, right? Like for example, meron kang policy, parang pag pinagtulak-tulakan mo naman yung tao palabas na.
Bawal.
Bawal yan, di ba? So yun yung nakikita ko na why I see the civil law approach would be a good middle ground. Kasi nga na I think Obed, I'm hearing kasi from you na you do see that this is a problem. The issue is how do we actually resolve the problem?
Yeah.
And I'm seeing here na
I know there's a problem, and I want to help, kaya nga nag-aaral din ako ng law to explore alternatives kasi hindi Sass, what I really am upset minsan sa mga hearings nyo, yung mga ibang lawyers, they don't tell yung real application ng law. At the same time, ang nangyayari sa 3 minutes na bibigay sa amin magsalita, ako as a conservative, eventually ang maririnig ko lang sagot is separation of church and state. Na parang sa akin, wait lang, like ngayon, I'm not even citing, di ba? I haven't even cited the Bible as of this time, and I don't want to cite the Bible. Pero ayun nga, so ang nangyari na nabablur yung discussion.
Yeah,
tapos,
I think kasi ako before kasi I was part of the Filipino Free Thinkers. Sabi ko na,
Sila rin, Tani.
yeah, yeah. The separation of church and state doesn't mean the separation of religion and society. Kasi so naive. It's so naive to think na in a country wherein a lot of people have religious belief wouldn't rely on their religious belief in order to relate to another person. So so yung sinasabi na separation of church and state, separation of church and state, yeah, it's a separation of the institutions. Pero if you go to everyday interactions, 'di ba? Na wherein discrimination happens, hindi kasi pwede nating sabihin na people would separate their self na, okay, this is my state self and this is my
Mm.
church state. Parang
Yeah.
we relate to people as a whole person. So kaya nga for me na
Yeah. And
how do we then have a better relations given we are different people,
yeah.
di
And
ba?
yeah, i-clarify ko lang yung separation of church and state. It has to be reconciled with the Bill of Rights provision na may free exercise clause. And sabi ng Supreme Court, the reason why meron tayong separation of church and state is to enable the free exercise of religion. Pero yung free exercise of religion, it's being right now interpreted as not just freedom of religion, it's freedom of belief. So, freedom of belief, freedom not to believe. So, yun siya. So, and so again, the purpose of the separation of church and state is to enable free exercise. Kasi pag walang
Yeah.
separation yan, paano yung ibang religions? Like, paano yung mga Buddhist? Ako, may friend akong Buddhist, paano siya? Ganyan. So, and actually, alam mo na, I think, hindi natin di-discuss dito, pero, sige, sabihin ko na rin. I'm actually sad by the laws sa ibang bansa when it comes to LGBT. Like, for example, I was talking with Sass, sa Malaysia, may kakilala ko human rights lawyer, Christian human rights lawyer siya. He's protecting LGBTs there. Kasi doon pala, sa Malaysia, Sass, may mga, ewan ko kung sa buong Malaysia or may mga certain places sa Malaysia, na bawal ang yung pagiging LGBT lang, isang criminal offense. So, shock ako. Sabi ko pa, bakit ganyan? Bakit ganyan sa inyo?
Yeah, it's
So,
well, not just in Malaysia, also in some parts of Indonesia and Brunei, of course, di ba?
yeah.
So ayun na nga, I think I can see that na the middle ground is a civil law approach
Yeah.
rather than criminal. Ngayon, di ba sabi mo you would like to show some certain provisions na you think are
Yeah, sige
problematic?
po. Sige po. I will, wait lang po. I think it's here. Here. Wait lang po. Oopsie. It's here. I don't know ba't di ko siya ma-share. Pero, sige, supposed to be ma-share siya dito eh.
Ito mag-ano lang ako, magko-comment lang ako
Sure,
sa
sige
mga
po, sige po, sige po.
watchers. Sabi ni Res Gaid, did I
Apo.
pronounce her name right? Res Gaid. Sabi niya, yes, indeed, Sass, we cannot separate religion and society. I-share ko lang ha, kasi I was, meron kasi ditong parang award na Eco Award na Promising Migrant Students. Tapos, para makuha mo yung award, meron dun parang magpipitch ka. Tapos, about yourself, etc. And you're going to answer questions. Tapos, yung isa sa mga questions sa akin, related sa religion. Sabi niya na, how will you approach religion? Sabi niya ganyan na, we know that there might be a tension between what you are advocating and religion. Sabi ko sa kanila na, well, I can see na there might be a tension, but I can also see na it doesn't need to be incompatible. Kasi at the bottom line, religion is really about us connecting to something bigger than us and someone and to a higher force and to connect to something sacred. And the goal is for us to become more and more compassionate, which is what one of the core beliefs of Christianity, compassion. And given that, then I don't see any issue between religious people or those who have a religion or those who have a particular religion understanding other people, kasi nga compassion is supposed to be the it's supposed to be the flowering of their religiosity, diba? Pwede ka ba namang maging religious tapos napaka-incompassionate mo, diba?
Well, may mga iba, they're trying, well, actually, siguro lang ngayon nagka-flashback lang sa mind ko yung mga nababasa ko about abuses of religion in church history. And I'm really sad about those things, and I think we learned our lessons. And ang kagandahan ngayon, wala tayong state-imposed religion. I think that's a good thing. And I think right now I wouldn't advocate for a state-imposed religion. But sige, ito, let's go to the provisions. Wait lang ah. Ito,
Okay?
by the way, ito may provisions, may comments. Ito may mga sige, sabihin niyo ako kung gusto niyo nung copy na to para mapadala ko sa inyo.
Okay.
Nagsasuggestin kasi kami. So hindi lang kami kontra ng kontra. We have suggestions actually.
Okay.
So ito
All right.
sinabi ko, gender identity, ito na-discuss natin 'yan. Sa amin by the way, we could say na na pag when we talk about sexual orientation, gender identity, pwede bang can we just maintain yung parang original definition ng biological sex and lahat na, like male or female, lahat na, saklaw na tayong lahat dyan. So,
Pero yung definition ng biological sex, is it gonna be based on science or law? Kasi those are two different
okay.
fields. In
Yeah.
biology kasi, it has a different meaning than how it is used in
Okay.
law.
Pero ganito po, ang actually, ang suggested, ang laging suggested dito ang suggested dito lagi is to use yung traditional, I mean, yung talagang, when people, hear the word, parang that's what they,
What everyday people think
yeah,
about it.
yeah.
Pero,
So,
pero that's my objection kasi. If we are just gonna rely on what people, how people ordinarily use it, then we should also apply it to all the terms that we know.
yeah,
Bakit lang sa sex?
yeah,
So
actually,
that's my question.
actually,
Why do we have to limit it only on the term sex na meron talaga siyang biological
okay,
definition?
okay. Yung
Na
term,
it's differently used by biologists than law than
yeah,
those
yeah.
people in the law.
Yeah.
Diba?
So, ang diyan, ang sa amin kasi I think Sass, you're aware naman sa history ng LGBT movement, no? So, there's a part of us na sa amin naman sa conservative movement na feeling namin along the way during the deliberations sa international level sa ibang mga discussions, ganyan, dialogues, feeling namin we were not ano, kasi ganito, Sass, I'm not sure if you're aware, there was a time no 1970s, 80s, actually nung time na nagkakaroon ng sexual revolution sa United States, saka sa mundo siguro, sa Philippines, saka sa ibang places ng world din, may mga tulad ng parents ko. Like ako, my mother was a professor before, my father was an accountant, ganyan. Tapos may mga iba
Yeah.
na may secular jobs, suddenly nag-resign sa trabaho. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, pero may mga ganun na there are people like yung mga conservatives who left their jobs kasi they thought Jesus Christ is coming soon. so, so they left their jobs. So ang nangyari, nabakante ngayon yung academe, nabakante yung bang mga positions of authority. And because nabakante sila, yung mga advocates ng sexual revolution, yung movements doon, sila nag-take over sa academe, and ang nangyari, feeling namin, hindi nagkaroon ng consultation, hindi nagkaroon ng maayos na usapan throughout history. Kaya parang some of us feel like we were cheated. Kaya nga nung 2014 when I started lobbying I mean against the version of the bill, ano,
Pero
ang yung ibang tao nga 2014 they don't even know what SOGIE meant. So kaya
can we
kaya
just take a
okay,
full
sure,
screen
sure.
first?
Okay,
My
tatanggalin ko
question,
yung
Obed,
okay.
kasi ganito, I approach this issue because I am personally
Yeah.
invested. So
Mm.
it's not just so for me, it's not just like an intellectual exercise.
Yeah.
So help me understand, yung mga against ba nito, are they personally invested? Do they really feel na um if these law get passed na parang mawawala na talaga sila ng karapatan? Or talagang kakawawain na sila ng society, or kasi
Okay, I'll tell you. Sige, sige. I think
kaya I think that's the emotional part ng debate
okay,
eh.
okay.
Diba? Parang especially coming from our side na a lot of us are coming from a very emotional place
Mm.
kasi we experience the harms that this law would um um would like to prevent from
Yeah.
happening. Although I think we
Mm.
both agree that the criminal law approach is not the right one, but the civil law approach. So just help me understand, what is actually the personal investment ng
Okay.
mga tao? Is
Okay.
it just because na it will be against their belief? Or do they really see a harm that would happen to them as a person?
Okay, ganito 'yan. Ano siya? First, to answer your question, in my experience, lobbying, against this bill since 2014, back in 2014, Hassas, people didn't know what SOGIE meant, and even fellow conservatives were laughing at us. Yeah, so they didn't know. They didn't get me. Alam mo kung kailan nagkaroon ng strain yan? Nagkaroon ng strain yan when the House of Representatives passed it without opposition. Saka lang yung ibang fellow conservatives na were asking me, bro, why are you doing that? I mean, there's no point in actually. I've received a lot of comments like that, and there's no point in what I've been doing. And even my professor dun sa isang Christian school, sabi niya sa akin, just quit it. Parang you don't have to do that. So, I'm telling you, sa unang dinig, when we started discussing about it, people didn't even people didn't even care if it will pass. I don't know what happened, bakit. Pero ganto, sige. So sa current situation, ganto. I'll tell you. Sa ano kasi namin sa parang eschatology kung tawagin, if you're familiar sa eschatology, yung parang end times na teaching.
Yeah.
Ang paniniwala ng marami kasi ganto na we were taught, actually I think all religions are taught na the world is going to be more and more against religion. So, and each generation should expect na sa kanilang generation mangyari 'yon. So, and for example, meron kami nung sa Christianity, meron kami nung Antichrist, ganyan.
Yeah,
Sa
yeah, yeah.
Muslim, meron silang nung Dajjal, yung Dajjal, ganyan, sa Muslim, ganyan. So, parang may ganong level to na parang and how it was described, and it's in the religious text, it said there na mas magiging more oppressive ang society when it comes to us. Society is eventually going to kill us, going to make us submit. So merong ganong na maybe some people will find it ridiculous, and minsan sometimes I even wonder if it's really gonna happen kasi every generation was taught to expect it. So I don't even know if that's gonna happen, but apparently it's something that it was taught to us. And
Yeah, I think I see where you're coming from now. Na kasi, religion is our spiritual belief is a huge part of our lives. And now I can see why, especially especially criminalizing, right?
yeah,
Suddenly you're being criminalized for something that you thought might be just a valid exercise of your right.
yeah,
Right? Now, nakita ko na if you do the civil law approach, yeah, we recognize that you might have this right, but we would like, in order for us, kasi may magko-conflict yung rights ng mga tao, so we just would like to know why are you exercising this right and how you are exercising it, right?
Yeah.
Because we cannot just exercise our right in any way that we want it to be exercised.
Yeah, bawal 'yan. Yan.
So Obed, kasi nasa SOGIE pa lang tayo and
Oo nga
kaunti na lang oras na
Sige,
pala.
sige.
Can we just move to same-sex union?
Okay, sure. Sige.
Same-sex union na tayo.
Okay,
So, sandali, i-close lang natin to ha. So, kami
Okay.
ni Obed, I think, now we agreed na the criminal law approach to anti-discrimination. Actually, hindi lang sa SOGIE, di ba? Even religion, di ba?
Yeah.
You feel it's too much.
Too much. Parang, no.
It's too much. Na parang, huwag tayo magpakulong ng tao.
Yan,
Parang, hindi kulong ang sagot. Di ba? Hindi kulong ang sagot.
Yeah.
Maybe just improve interpersonal relationships.
Actually, yun din nakikita kong problem sa Safe Spaces Act if ever na ma-challenge siya in court. Kasi nga, ang ginawa niya, yung civil code provision niya, so parang, yun yung possible na challenge niya. So, kaya nga, I sabi ko, pagka ako nagpo-propose ng alternatives, akala ng iba, nangongontra lang, hindi. I'm actually trying to save a law, for example, na magiging ineffective or ma-declare na invalid. Kasi nangyari na,
Actually,
ilang beses nangyari.
Following really the conservative political thinking na you don't want the state to be too involved.
And actually, baka ma-invalidate din. So parang, and actually, Sass, ganito. Isang concern ko rin kasi, siguro right now na may sakit din ako, may anxiety disorder. Sabi nga isang listener natin, Obed, maghinahinay ka muna kasi parang ang bilis ko raw magsalita. Opo, medyo madaldal ako, I have anxiety disorder, so medyo, I'm not normal, but Anyway, ano, so
Kaso
so
same-sex union na tayo, same-sex
okay,
union
okay.
na tayo.
All right. But hindi, pero ano ko lang din na ano siya na we're trying to save din na ano. Ayoko yung masyado tayong magtatalo for something na eventually ma-invalidate din. Yung ganun. But okay, so let's go to same-sex union. Okay. Sige. Again, may paper ako on that, pero yung paper ko po dyan is yung version niya in the last Congress. Kasi ewan ko kung bakit, yung final niya lang this Congress, yung final nila simula last year, from 2019 to 2022, yung naka-file, hindi ako makakita ng copy. So kung may copy kayo, padala niyo sa akin. Pero if it's the same as the copy of the 18th Congress, so yun ang may paper ako. Okay. The same 6 year ganito. Um, ang nakikita kong challenge dyan is, kasi, si Joaquin Bernas, si Father Joaquin Bernas, siya lawyer siya, top-notcher, isa siya sa mga members ng, isa sa mga gumawa ng constitution natin. Okay, 1987 Constitution. Ang sabi niya, when the constitution refers to family, it only pertains to heterosexual couples. So isang nakikita kong yun, pwedeng maging possible na dahilan in case na, for example, we push through the same-sex union law, baka lang ma-invalidate. So may mga ibang naghahanda, lagi yan may naghahandang mag-argue sa Supreme Court. Pero
Why would it be invalidate if it's not going to be considered marriage?
okay, kasi ang ginawa nila kasi diyan, yung provisions ng family code, parang kinarve lang nila, tapos nilagay nila sa same-sex union. Tapos nandun ako I was there in the hearing na unti-unti nilang dinidelete yung word na family, marriage, ganyan. I was there. Hindi ba may mga technical working groups ganyan. So I was there. And so ang question is, if this is, the same, if the provisions are, same or carved just from the family code, so it means it's family. So parang may ganong siya. So kung pwedeng, ibahin, which is ito naman ang sabi ni Justice Vitug diyan nung part
So
ng.
wait a
Okay,
second.
sige,
Wait a
go.
second.
Go, go.
I would like to know whether I'm getting this right.
Okay.
So sa Constitution, the family there is only a heterosexual family.
Okay, yun ang sabi nung framer natin. Oo. Yun ang rational
So
edges niya. Oo.
yun sabi niya na the
Oo.
family there is only a heterosexual family.
Yeah.
Ibig sabihin na um, what about single mothers?
Wait, heterosexual, it means man, woman. So hindi
Yeah,
siya.
but about the family is only composed of the mother and the children,
Okay,
and
so
there's no husband.
okay. So nandyan yung we have a provision on women. We have a provision on children. We have a provision on parents. So yung word na parents, it also refers to the yung actually siya it refers to the relationship between a parent and a child. So hindi siya doesn't not necessarily have to be your own child kasi pwede yung adoption. So we have to reconcile that provision with the other provisions on women. And actually walang provision po sa constitution, which is something na you know walang provision sa constitution on men. So we're kasama na kami doon sa whenever the constitution refers to persons, we're referred doon na kami kasama. So but pag women usually siya mas so I
So
think
yung sa same sex, so let's say, so yun na, family,
okay.
and then, so yun yung magiging problematic.
If
Kasi
ever na
the
ma-challenge
family,
sa Supreme Court, pero ganito yan,
pero
ganito.
paano siya magiging ma-challenge? It's about forming, why would it, so if it's get challenged na, okay, family here is heterosexual family, therefore, hindi ko makits yung line of argument.
Okay.
So therefore, hindi ka pwedeng magbuo ng pamilya other than heterosexual family?
No.
Is it illegal to form
No.
a
It's
non-heterosexual
it
family?
won't be illegal to
Okay, it
form.
won't be illegal.
Okay, it
Yes.
will not be illegal, and I would oppose any bill or proposal that would make it
Hindi,
illegal. But
hindi, ganito, girl.
okay.
Ganito, Abed. So, if the Constitution says na ang family lang na may recognize ng state ay heterosexual, is it the intention of the Constitution framers na we will only recognize heterosexual family? Or is the intention more like when we wrote this revision, we were thinking of heterosexual family. Kasi
Ayun.
magkaiba yun eh.
Yeah, yeah.
Magkaiba yun.
So, yeah. So, ang sabi nila, well, the way Bernas wrote it is this refers to heterosexual family.
Yeah,
Actually,
pero yung
ganito,
refers to kasi,
pero ganito
it
yan eh.
can be either, it can
Sas,
either be when we wrote this, when we wrote this provision, we are only gonna limit this to heterosexual
okay.
family. Pero yung the other kasi is, when we wrote this, we were thinking of heterosexual family. Magkaiba
Yeah,
yung gravity ng dalawang yun.
yeah. Actually, ganito yan, Sas. I tried going to Bernas. I was about to ask that.
Ganun.
Ang problema, he is currently sick.
Mm.
He couldn't be reasoned with. And I don't have yet access to I masasagot yung tanong mo na yan kapag may access tayo dun sa ano yung napag-usapan nila. Yung annotations, yung deliberations, which is I don't know where to get it, but in our constitutional law books, sinasite nila during the deliberations, this is what happened. So, ang tanong ko, where are the records? Kasi doon natin makita eh. I
1987, 1987 Constitutional
yeah,
Convention.
yeah, actually, kasi hanggang ngayon, there are books, even up to this day, citing the deliberations. And I don't know where those things are coming from. Malay ko ba kung baka mamaya ko lang yung kinuha yan. Pero,
Okay, so
kaya,
so Obed, so I think I
okay.
would say so let's say na yun na nga, the intention of the framers is ang nire-refer nila dun is heterosexual family. Pero you also said na you would not you would oppose criminalizing non-heterosexual family,
Yeah.
right? Okay, now since you will oppose criminalizing non-heterosexual family, will you then how will then non-heterosexual family be able to be a family with the protection of a state?
Okay. Ganito. Um, Actually, ganito. Yung ano kasi, Constitution again, it's a based sa dun sa ano namin, understanding namin, lalo yung Equal Protection Clause, ganyan, Bill of Rights, it was not, yung nga, we as much as possible, actually, dapat sana hindi siya nag-encroach doon. Sa, honestly, Sas, I mean, I'm call me primitive dito, pero, 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 ganito kasi, I'm also thinking, siguro sa ibang, maghanap ako ng ibang pwedeng siguro kausapin if wala kang time dun sa, when it comes to pag-usapan yung divorce, kasi medyo may, dun pinapag-usapan ko ano yung family eh. And, and ano din, dito, wait lang, sorry, na-excite ako masyado. Ano yung tanong?
Ang tanong ko ganito, kasi we are now flowing
Okay,
from the premise
so how
na,
how can we be protected?
the
Okay,
Constitution says
okay,
na,
yeah,
let's say, ganun nga, di ba?
okay.
Na family in the Constitution is heterosexual. Now, tinanong kita, are you gonna be in favor of criminalizing non-heterosexual family? You said no. So now my question is, how can then non-heterosexual family be protected by the state, or do they need
Okay.
protection, or is this just something na we would just say na, okay, we accept that they have other kinds of family,
Okay, ganito.
but
Ganito.
because we don't agree with the kind of family that they have, then
Okay.
then they shouldn't benefit from what quote unquote heterosexual families experience.
Okay. So, ganito. Can we list down what are the things, I mean, if may time, may ballpen ako, may paper, can we list down, ano yung mga items na gusto mong ma-secure?
Conjugal
Okay,
properties,
conjugal.
right?
Okay.
Next of kin status, immigration purposes, taxation.
Wait lang, pag sinabing immigration, what do you mean?
I think, ha? Di
Pag
ba yung
sinabing,
pwede ka mag-joint file ng taxation if you are recognized as a couple?
sa train law, parang medyo, may iniba sila dyan eh.
So anyway,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
I think all secular benefits,
Okay, sige. Ganito.
all secular benefits that couples do enjoy.
Okay, ganito.
So no religious
Yeah, sure.
benefit. So definitely no marriage in churches.
Yeah.
No it shouldn't be considered discriminatory for religious groups to deny religious ceremonies to couples that they don't feel na would be able to uh to couples who don't they think deserving the sacrament of marriage. So
Okay.
no, definitely no religious benefits. So all
Yeah.
secular benefits. That's all.
Okay, sige. Ganito, sa first, yung sa conjugal property, ang sabi ni Justice Vitug diyan ano, ang equivalent natin diyan is co-ownership. We have the laws on co-ownership. At the same time, aside from the laws on co-ownership, we have Article 148 of the Civil Code that says na, kasi yung 147, ang sinabi niya, yung 147, 148, it's for live-in couples. Actually, it's for live-in couples. So, actually, ganito, Sass, just to tell you,
Yung
kami, ha?
cohabitation.
Yeah, cohabitation. Actually,
Hindi nga ano yan, heterosexual
no,
cohabitation din
wait
yan.
lang, wait lang. Yun yung 147. Yun yung 147. Why?
Yeah.
Bakit naiba sa 148? Ang sabi kasi sa 148, all those who cohabit not belonging to the previous article, ito yung mag-apply. Eh, ang nakalagay sa 147, man and woman. Eh, ang sabi sa 148, all of those who cohabit not belonging to the previous article. Yun ang sabi niya sa 148. Tama to.
Okay, so I think in cohabitation, so yung provision na yan would cover conjugal properties.
Ang tawag nila is, yeah, ang tawag nila, ang conjugal kasi it's like co-ownership lang din naman. So, co-ownership. So, yun siya. And
Pero do they need to file that they are cohabiting a particular?
ang sabi dito, in the absence of proof to the contrary, their contributions and corresponding shares are presumed to be equal.
Okay, so in that sense, you think that provision of the civil law, of the family code yan, di ba?
Yeah, family code.
Of the family
Yeah.
code would cover property issues
Yeah.
na non-heterosexual couples.
Yeah, pero kasi ito, it's also pointing out to co-ownership. So, even for example, sabihin nila ganito, what if for example an LGBT, couple would ask na sana
Not non-heterosexual.
or sige. Sure. Yeah. So, what if for example non-heterosexual couple would like to have their co-ownership recognized? Tas ang gagawin is po-point out na family code provision 'yan. Ito naman kinuha naman siya sa co-ownership. Yung co-ownership mula naman yun buong-buo civil code yun, hindi yun family code. So hindi.
So I think ang nakikita rin natin dito is no one would like to test yet whether this law.
Yeah, actually sabi nga ni Vitug come to the Supreme Court. Nung si Vitug retired na eh. Sabi niya come to the Supreme. Nung sinabi niya come to the Supreme Court, ang tanong sa akin so may nag-try na ba? Kasi ayun nga eh. So kung wala pong nag-try and or it's either wala nag-try or nag-grant sila sa lower courts. Kasi pag umabot sa Supreme Court, kailangan magsimula ka sa lower court eh.
Maybe they have been granted by the I think that those cases should go out kasi it would be a good thing kasi nga if the current laws are already providing this, then why not might as well avail,
Yeah.
diba? Na maybe what we just need in the same-sex union law or something like that would be those provisions would be to cover areas that are not covered by the current laws.
Yeah. And actually ganito po, ganito as a law student, kami nga nag-usap-usap kami ng mga magkaklase. Medyo honestly may so far may dalawa kaklase nagsabi ayaw niya magpakasal. Live in na lang daw. Kasi nung diniscuss sa amin yung family code tapos yung mga rights and duties, medyo honestly I mean syempre we don't have time to discuss it here. Ako rin honestly natakot ako, even conservative ako, natakot ako sa family code kasi hindi kasi yung lang yung parang alam mo yung certainty na na yung certainty ba na to stay here ganon tapos yung rights and duties. What if ganito, what if ganon. Tapos ako kaya ako nag-advocate actually ako for amending our annulment laws. Kung di man yung divorce kasi ang divorce and annulment are two legal fictions kasi. So yung divorce, you terminate the marriage, yung annulment, you say the marriage was void from the beginning, pero you recognize the existing rights. So sa akin, mas plausible yung adding grounds for annulment. Pero habang wala pang ganun, at even if may ganun, mag-grant yung wini-wish kong amendment sa annulment law. Amendment sa annulment law. Parang medyo nakakatakot kasi ang daming rights actually. Minsan yung rights and duties pa lang, actually, we don't have time to discuss. Kaya nga minsan nag-isip ako, dapat pa bang, dapat pa bang ni-regulate ng state to? Kasi parang, parang ang sakit naman. Pero inisip ko naman kasi, kung walang ganito, baka magkaroon ng abuse. So, so sa akin, actually, honestly, nasa ganong stage ako. There's a part of me na sinasabing, pwede ba kahit sa heterosexual, wag na lang. Wala na tayong ganito. Pero apparently
So I
kasi,
think I'm seeing kasi the points of conservative people. Now we do have a tradition, right? And the tradition is working. This has served a purpose in society, diba? Um, yeah, we one of my favorite conservative writers, John Keats. Yun na yung sabi niya, if tradition needs to change, then it doesn't mean na overturning the
yeah,
previous tradition.
yeah,
It's simply adding to it, 'di ba?
yeah,
Hindi yung you would destroy the former tradition kasi if it's working, why fix it,
yeah,
right? So so I think that's the middle ground that I'm
yeah,
seeing here, right?
yeah,
We retain the traditional definition of marriage,
yeah,
right? We recognize that maybe the family primarily refers to heterosexual couple, although family can also be established in outside that context.
yeah.
And I think naman siguro people would recognize the reality na hindi
Yeah.
lang naman heterosexual
Opo.
families, di ba?
Saka just yeah.
Kasi di ba, you don't want to criminalize, we don't want to criminalize the heterosexual family, and we don't want to be not to show. I don't think naman kasi na religious people would like to be cruel
Hindi,
to
kaya,
to
kaya nga
di
kaya nga
ba?
kaya nga nagda-dialogue tayo. so, so hindi kasi ako siguro right now, especially right now na may sakit na ako. So parang nagpapagaling ganyan. Parang nababother ako sa yung extreme ba, yung mga
Extremism,
yeah,
extremist
mga
extremism.
pinagsasabi ganun. So,
Yeah,
that's
me
it.
too, me
So,
too.
tapos naman, at the same time, yung same-sex union bill kasi na final nila, criminal law din siya. So kapag hindi,
Huh?
yeah, oo, if hindi ma-recognize yung, or somebody would not respect or recognize yung you pwede mapakulong. So ganun,
No,
yun na
I
naman. Kaya nga
I
eh.
think I think kasi I can also say na I don't recognize, para bang halimbawa ako, nagsiselos ako. Halimbawa ikaw, nag-asawa ka, di ba? Tapos sabihin natin may relasyon tayo, tapos hindi ko nire-recognize ang kasal ninyo. Di ba? I don't like your partnership, di ba? And then halimbawa meron ako mga kumpanya, and then sabi ko, ay ako nga kasi kasal yan dun. Di ba? It can be considered like a non-recognition of your
Yeah,
marriage. I think the problem is people are so trigger happy
yeah.
na na may problema. Let's resolve this in the most extreme
Yeah,
way.
ganun. Kaya actually, isang point of contention din yun, na sabi ko, nung nasa hearing kami, na naman, sabi ko, bakit,
I
bakit,
didn't know this. I
bakit,
didn't know this. I
bakit may
didn't know
penal
this.
provisions to? so, so ganun
I
siya.
didn't know this. It's
Yeah,
supposed to be a civil law.
yeah, actually,
Civil law thing, right?
nag-isip nga ako, anong, kung heterosexual couple ba, hindi ni-recognize, may penal provision. Actually, ngayon, I mean, hindi pa ako graduate ng law school pero nabasa ko, natapos ko yung family ko, yung PFR, yung first time na subject namin, wala akong nakitang criminal violation for not recognizing heterosexual couples, So parang,
Exactly.
so,
That's
so,
for me. That's too much. That whoever thought about that.
actually, ang dami nila.
Ano yan? Parang, why, hindi ko na-guess ang logic na why would people be sent to jail because they cannot accept you as a couple?
yeah, yeah.
Di ba?
So,
Parang it's too much. Na parang, yeah, if you can, unless of course, di ba, kung meron ng conflict of rights,
yeah,
na the way they exercise. So, babalik ulit tayo dun sa civil law way of resolving
yeah,
personal interactions.
yeah. So, ayun, so,
Ako yan, ayan, ayoko yan. Ayoko yan. So, X yan. We don't even need to find a middle ground there. X yung
ayun,
position.
ayun, thanks. Actually, yun yung ano rin eh. if you, tas sa mga hindi naniniwala, if you want, wala akong makitang copy ngayon yung current file na yung current bill na naka-file, pero may copy ako nung last Congress at may penal provision siya. Next, okay, so okay yung sa co-ownership. Next, yung kinship status ganito. Actually, I've been really thinking about this, what to do with this kasi ang pwede lang magawa dyan is solo adoption, which is not exactly what you guys are asking for, 'di ba? You want both the heterosexual couple to, I mean non-heterosexual couple to adopt, 'di ba?
Hindi, ang next of kin kasi, the most important dyan is, iba-iba layers yan eh. For
Okay.
example, ikaw, kasal ka, di ba?
Okay, okay,
Yung
okay.
wife mo would have visitation rights in the
Okay, sige, sige,
hospital,
ayun.
di ba? Na you would be considered as the immediate, you could consider as the next of kin. Halimbawa, sa insurance, di ba?
Meron na,
You,
pwede,
you
pwede,
cannot, you,
pwede.
diba? So yun yung iba-ibang layers kasi ng
Yeah,
next of kin.
yeah. Sa insurance, inalaw na ng insurance commission ha. Tapos hindi namin inopose yun. We
Yeah.
did,
Oh, inalaw na ng insurance
yeah,
commission.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, meron ako
Ano yan?
may mga friends ako na na commercial lang ha. Kapag meron ako mga friends na insurance agents, nasabi na they're actually welcoming of they're actually welcoming LGBT couples to register. So,
Pero ganito, anong batayan nila ng pagiging couple?
hindi, yun nga, hindi, yun,
Diba?
hindi,
Diba? Parang,
hindi actually,
yan.
no, ang sa kanila is lang, declare mo lang. Declare mo lang na siya yung beneficiary ko. Pwede yun. Pero,
So if
uh,
it's already declared na siya ang beneficiary, that's it?
yeah, yeah, actually, that's how my friends told me, na insurance agents. So, kung may ibang insurance agent na nag-deny sa inyo, punta kayo sa akin, yung friend ko, re-refer ko, para ipagkakitaan din sila. So, yeah, pero ganito, ang sabi lang nila, sabi ng sa akin, Bed, ang iniiwasan lang namin dyan, ganito, we're going to screen the beneficiary. Siya lang i-screen namin kasi, meron silang cases, ito, real life cases na, yung dineclare na beneficiary, inabuso niya yung yung nag-declare sa kanya. So, yun ang kanilang i-evaluate. Pero kung for example, kung meron ka bang cases of moral turpitude before, kung interviewin ka na, okay, so you're not related by blood, you're not related by marriage, but you'll be declared as beneficiary kasi couple kayo. So, we don't even need to find a proof na couple kayo, basta lang i-declare mo siya. Pero, we're going to screen this person. So, pero usually naman di alaw kasi nga, insurance agents, they also want to
Yeah.
earn. Ganon.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So
so,
may economic dimension yan.
yeah. So,
Yun. Pero ako, Obed, it's gonna be like to, ano na,
meron kang lakad. Okay, sige,
time
sige.
natin eh. Yeah.
Okay, sige,
So
sige.
I think, for me, I understand. And yeah, I understand the objections of conservative forces, either religious or non-religious,
Uy, pero hindi lang
to
objections ha. We're offering alternatives. So,
alternatives.
ako yun.
Yes.
I'm the one offering alternatives. Yung iba kasi oppose lang
Yung
oppose eh.
mga LGBT advocates yung kausapin niyo si Obed, di ba,
Hello,
kakuha
chat nyo ako. Usap
na
tayo.
mas rational approach. Mas rational na concern. Anyway, so for me, ganito. I will just summarize, I think,
Okay,
for my perspective, what we have agreed upon
sure.
in this conversation, in this
Mm-mm.
dialogue. First, we agreed na there is there is an issue
Mm-mm.
na we should resolve.
Yeah.
So yun yung maganda na both of us, we don't turn our back on it. Diba?
Yeah.
Na parang,
Let's face it.
we don't just say na, Kebs, na parang wala kaming pakialam sa issue na yan.
Ay,
Or yung tipong, no, we're not gonna listen to the other person. Diba? So parang we demonstrated here na we can actually listen to each other and see na maybe we have same ideas. Second, for yung sa SOGIE bill, na parang the issue of discrimination is not gonna be resolved, or it's not best resolved using a criminal law approach.
Yeah.
Diba? It's better to do it via a civil law approach. Kasi sa criminal law, the penalty is that you're gonna deprive the violator of all his liberty and freedom if he got discriminated, which I think na, yeah, it's a reasonable objection given that line of argument, especially na Yeah, tama. Ngayon it makes sense to me what people say na, what about straight people? Would people go to jail?
Yeah.
Because of, so in that sense na I can already see some logic in yung mga binabato nila sa akin ganun. And number three, when it came to same-sex union law, so we agree na there might be provisions in our current law na could cover
Yeah.
um let's say
Pero meron din
same-sex partnerships,
pero may mga kailangang
child.
i-amend pa rin, May mga kailangang
Oo.
i-amend pa
May
rin.
mga
So,
kailangang i-amend pa
oo.
rin. Pero ang ano ko kasi dito, let's say, so in terms of discrimination, parang what I got is individ all of us have rights, right? We might have a right to do something. Let's say we don't like the person for whatever reasons, right? But the question is, it's not whether or not we do have a right, right? But why are we exercising it? And how
Mm.
are we exercising that right? Because our rights, given that we live in a plural society, different
Mm.
people, our rights are bound to conflict with each other. So so that's why I think na for me, the middle ground is really having a civil law approach. Because it
Yeah.
recognizes na yes, we agree that you might have the right to discriminate. But the point is, the other person might also have a right to do something. So let's
Yeah.
try to find, balance between these two rights,
Yeah.
right? And that you might not, and that we should ensure that you're not exercising your right in a bad
Yeah.
way. Now, sa civil union naman, my takeaway point is this, right? So traditionally, we might say that the state traditionally recognizes heterosexual couple. And this is something that has been going on for a long time. It's not a broken institution.
Mm.
It's not it works. It has served our civilization
Mm.
for for as long as
Yeah.
possible. However, we cannot deny the reality na there are other also forms of family.
Yeah.
And I think na hindi na natin na-discuss, but I think na if the state could help, right? Could
Mm.
provide help, resources to heterosexual families in order to ensure that it would remain a stable, faithful, and fertile ground for for the future generation to
Mm.
emerge. And I think naman it's not too much of a stretch na the state might should also lend help to non-traditional forms of family, non-heterosexual family, because it will also serve as a fertile ground for, um, for the younger generation, right? So I think na if the state can help to ensure stability and fairness and and rights and safeguard rights and
Yeah.
responsibilities within a heterosexual
Yeah.
family. I think it's also about time na non-heterosexual families should also have certain responsibilities and rights that they must honor before the state. I don't my only concern is secular
Yeah.
related rights.
Sure.
No, nothing related to the sacrament of religion because
Sure.
that's already the prerogative of religious groups of who they could give the sacrament of marriage to. Pero yun nga lang na, and of course I'm against penalizing people who wouldn't
Yeah.
honor
Yeah. So, ayun naman,
who
and
wouldn't honor non-traditional families. That's too much.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think ito, in terms of style diyan sa drafting ng bills, minsan ang contention lang is terminologies. So kapag kaya nga maganda nagda-dialogue, and Sass, I'm really thankful for, nag-agree ka sa, akala ko di mo mapapansin eh. Pero akala ko
Really?
magagalit. Oo, akala ko nag-message ako sa iyo noon. Sabi ko baka mamaya kung hindi ako pansin
Baka
nito. So,
magalit ako.
oo, baka magalit to. Pero kasi that's what I've been doing. I mean, ako naman I've been approaching people naman looking kung sino pwedeng makausap ganyan. So, and maka-dialogue, and and it's good na sana ma-let out ng mga ideas na to, maraming makaalam. So, kasi ang nagiging away minsan definition of terms na pwede mo namang i-sneak in yun eh. Pwede mo namang mapagbigyan. Ah,
So ang away talaga is not really the on substantive issues like for
yeah, may
example,
mga terms lang. Mm.
or maybe ang away is not really on whether we need this, or maybe just on how we should
Yeah,
approach.
parang pansin ko gano'n kasi may iba nagsabi na eto lang, pwede bang pakitanggalin nyo lang to? Ilagay nyo like two persons. If you put two persons there, wag mo nang sabing same-sex couple. Two persons is two persons, dalawang tao. And, couple sila ganyan. So yung and ang statutory construction principle naman, when the law does not distinguish, the court should not distinguish. So two persons is two persons. So yung ganun. So yung mga ganung style ba na kaya nandito ako, we can talk and Sass,
Well,
I'm really thankful.
maybe Obed, you
Ah,
should be able, but why don't you try it? Why don't you test that
sa
case? Maybe you know some non-heterosexual couple. Maybe try to test that law whether they can already cohabit under.
hindi pa ako lawyer eh.
Hindi ka
So,
pa lawyer.
hindi pa kaya law student pa lang, kaya kanina in-establish ko kanina law student pa lang eh. So law student pa lang ako. Oh, so so
Pero
kaya
nagtuturo ka, di ba? Pero nagtuturo.
yeah, but I'm teaching. I'm teaching non-law subjects. So politics related, politics and governance, reading sa Philippine history, mga ganyan. So, mga ganang subjects. But anyway, sige, I think nagmamadali ka na eh. So
Yeah.
ayun, Sass, I'm really thankful sa iyo for this
Salamat eh.
opportunity and sana bati tayo lagi. Ganyan. And
Hindi naman,
sana
hindi naman kasi kailangang mag-away.
oo,
Pwede naman
ganun.
kasi mag-usap na ano bang nangyayari? Why do we disagree, 'di ba?
Yeah.
Why I think that's a better way of proceeding kasi at the end of the day, again, sabi ko nga katulad ng pag-umpisa ko na I don't want to approach politics as if it's a battle between good or evil. So even though na I do passionately believe in my cause, I also believe na I do not have access to the mind of God. Diba? I do not equate my morality and my personal morality with the moral order of the universe because I do not know the moral order of the universe and I don't think na as a mortal being I would be able to fully comprehend what the moral order of the universe that resides in the mind of God. So as much as possible, right, we approach issues with a great dose of humility because we don't really know whether our position is really going to be the right one
Yeah.
in terms of infinity.
Yeah,
Right?
and just to let you know, even if I identify as a Christian, there are even times I ask myself, is there a God? So I mean, I have those moments too. So, syempre, whether,
a lot of
diba?
religious people do that. A lot of
Yeah,
religious people do that, right?
ganun.
Mother Teresa, a lot of Christian mystics,
Yeah.
right? Who's that? Anyway, so yun na nga. So
Ayan.
dito na lang kasi meron pa akong next
Oo.
meeting of
Yun, salamat Sass. Sige. So sa mga nakinig sa amin, no, nag-watch, thank you. You can watch the replay and ayun, so I hope na maging okay ang career ni Sass. I mean, syempre ngayon, I mean everything, all the good wishes, all the good wishes.
I think
Ganun.
I think Obed, you need all the positive energies and healing
Yeah.
energies you need, right?
Yeah.
I wish you well. I wish you a kinder sea in 2021. And
Sana magka-love life na ako. Wala pa akong love life. Ano ba yan?
yung crush daw ni Obed.
Oy. Oy. Okay. Ayun,
Alright.
sige. Alright, sige
Thank
po.
you
So thank you so much.
Salamat sa mga
Bye-bye.
nanonood sa page ni Obed.
Salamat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.